stage dominance. Now we're going to move on. It's going to be Kotte versus June. June, the artist formerly known as Beef, of course. And this is Group Prancer. June, I think, coming into this 0-2 with a tie. Tied with Beanie, as a matter of fact. And I think this is the first game Kotte has played in the tournament.
Yeah, and we're looking at the picks and bans here on screen, and it's the same set picks. It's going to be the same heavy occlusion maps there from Kadi, and our interesting new maps. No, we actually have, yeah, a gallery band again. The only difference here is we're going to see no more TN, we're going to see Aquarium as actually our first map played.
Well, very interesting. We're going to, let me see here. Let me make sure I have that right. I have Redwoods as the first one.
Oh, they mixed it up? Okay.
I guess they
On
did. It
on
might have
the
been a
picks and
mistake.
bans, it looked like it would be. Yeah, looking at it, it is Redwoods first, interestingly enough, given that we just came out of Redwoods, but let's
Right back in.
see. Yeah, back to the trees.
Yeah, back to the trees. Kotte playing as Leopard. I'm not sure about leopards in forests. I think it's more of a jungle thing, but, we'll go with it. Starting in 3, 2, 1, playing it. Kotte has actually, they played in, I think it was last year's Winter Cup, or it might have been the Summer Cup. I'd have to double check, but I don't think they got out of groups, and that means they've just played 3 matches since they actually played me in the SEL 6 championship tournament. So has not played a lot of competitive recently, but we've certainly seen them with a pretty high skill ceiling in general.
Yeah. I've talked a lot about Cody's play previously. I think a big thing is it's just very much standard Spy Party played
Yes.
very well and
Yes.
very consistently.
When I was prepping for that match that I mentioned earlier, first of all, I noticed Kotte loves bug. Not a big secret that I'm giving away there. And they love walking bugs, also not a big secret. But in their case, it was extreme. It was something like, the number isn't going to be completely right, but it's close. It was something like 36 out of 37 bugs were walking rather than
Really?
standing.
Goodness.
Yes. It was insane. It was one of the highest walking to standing bug ratios of anyone I had studied at the time. Granted, this is about a year and a half ago now, but that was one of my biggest notes about them. So you're definitely going to want to be looking for that, especially on Redwoods, if you've done your homework. And that is a white test flirt for 21%. And somewhere I can hear Tobo crying.
21% leaves us with 79%, and 79% is definitely doable, but definitely not in uh, a pretty way. Like we can get to the 85% plus 21%, for example, but we're gonna have a bit of mess here. We were near the ambassador, but otherwise have no missions and no progress, and we're already running low on time because we didn't use the purloin.
We also didn't take the apparently standard green time add on Redwoods that we were growing accustomed to in the previous match.
Yeah, I think Claudia just generally a bit more of a passive player compared to the aggressive OP rights and also Nessie.
Yeah, this is going to be a little slower pace probably than the players we just saw. We might have been spoiled with speed there before. For your part, just briefly, because there's not a whole lot happening anyway, if you're timing on Redwoods, is it more likely to be somewhere out by the windows, or are you going to go for that fireplace?
Never fireplace. There's a specific spot that nobody ever watches. It's about four rungs. I'm gonna say they're called rungs on the pad that Irish is now standing on. Is my favorite spot, and I've spammed it basically every game I start anywhere near there.
Good to know. Everyone take note. That is a delegating per list. I'm combining the words on the fly. We don't have much time. Kotte is taking there. We're going to delegate at some point, or we might not. Why not? There's a minute left, but with a minute left, we probably are going to try to frame. We do have half that flirt in, so we still don't have that green test that we're going to need, that 21% is going to force us into if we want to complete, but it doesn't feel like a completing kind of situation. We're going to have to rush to even get there. Instead, we're going to delegate to Teal, and it should have happened, I think, because there's nobody else at bar in time. We're going to knock them out
And
with a
into
white
red.
BB. This is related to what you talked about before, but I don't think it makes sense here because you want them to notice the purloin in this case. They do not get low lit. There's the purloin, and here comes the reaction from June. Nothing yet.
We have 40 seconds left, but for the sniper side, they see the list gone, they see Banana Bread done,
We
and
get low
they've
lit.
low the spy. They just need to find an excuse to shoot somebody, and someone like Orange Dress is probably top of that list. Going to statues, it's either going to be a hold or it's going to be someone like Orange, sorry, getting
There it
shot.
is.
Could have been a bit more patient, given like 3 more seconds, 10 more seconds, but it still wouldn't have triggered overtime necessarily. If Orange Sorry was doing a mission, and so the shot needed to be taken if you believe it is. But I don't really think they had a true belief that it was Orange Sorry doing the purloin. It's just the pressure of 2 missions being shown.
Yeah, I mean, it's like before, right? If you're not sure who did the purloin and the purloin's done, Sometimes you just got to shoot, especially on Redwoods. A little harder to hold your shot on Redwoods than Ballroom, to say the least, and they didn't do it there either. So kind of echo of the previous match, some of the stuff we saw with Purloin there. I think, though, it's interesting. We talked about the logic of making sure a low light does something suspicious so that it's not watched. I don't think you wanted that there. You wanted the Purloin to be watched, although weirdly enough, Teal not knocked out, so they were watched anyway. So in a sense, it was sort of error, counter error, counter error that ends up resulting in the win.
Yeah, I don't think it's a huge problem with 40 seconds. You can trust your opponent to see the list most of the time, just because it should be in their cycling to go check out on it. The problem is if they feel like they missed the list by more than 10 seconds, then they have
Yeah.
no incentive to shoot until someone shows something. In this case, a highlight and somebody I think they were already suspicious of went to statues, so good reason. But a bit fortunate that the AI did do us that favor. We now have June playing as Alice on your count.
3, 2, 1, playing it. Yeah, I think definitely a messier game than we were seeing before. Speaking of, there's a bug attempt immediately from June. It does not take, but you can already see these snipers not necessarily as, I'm going to say, obsessed with the Ambassador as the previous two.
I don't even think that Kotte had a chance. With Redwoods, you have to find the ambassador. It's a mini game in itself, and June did that so quickly. Like they were frame one, just got into the game, hit the bug button.
Well, why not? You got one of the faster characters too, and you have a whole lot of trees in the way. And even though you can't tell exactly which ones are blocking you at any given moment, it's a decent chance one of them is. We go to the bar right afterwards, maybe to drink away our troubles after the missed bug, but we are probably going to delegate this at some point. The Ambassador not particularly vulnerable. Kotte still kind of watching them, but wasn't able to track them in the beginning of the game. So I think the bug attempt was free. That is a 51% on the Seduction. Seduction is Smallman, as we talk about a lot. One of the reasons to make Smallman your Seduction target is it's the only role you can give them other than Spy that guarantees they won't be cast.
Yeah, there hasn't been much action to the bar. I mean, the most recent visit was the ambassador and then just ourselves. I wouldn't hate sending Smallman to the bar, though, as long as it doesn't actually trigger the Purloin, because they'll get a fingerprint. Or at least credit for a fingerprint. I'm not sure Ambassador actually took a drink.
This is going to be close, but I think it's going to take because there was no one in line at bar before, and there it is. It is, in fact, Purloined, and Kotte has not reacted to it. They are instead keeping the Ambassador on the screen now, of all times, it seems like. I don't think they've noticed yet. I don't see any reaction. Their statue highlights coming out still. Very interesting. Are we going to get low lights now for the Purloin? They're starting to happen. Yep.
Yeah, do we still have the drink in hand? I think we do. We haven't gotten rid of the evidence, and Smallman is just standing there in conversation. If Smallman does do something threatening, like go to a bookcase, particularly the one with the statues next to them, he might get shot. I think we were trying to bug there, but we end up doing a fake banana bread.
Oh, no. That's not good because Smallman's not even within an SDA, and this is the #1 person other than yourself that you have to be thinking about right now.
The big boon here is Seek has apparently been credited for the Purloin 2 as taking a highlight, and is one of the few people not low lit, and they were with a double agent. With so many people low lit, even a pathing mistake like that is a potential problem.
We were worried that we weren't close enough for that flirt, and we twitched closer and we hit the white test anyway. I think we might have just been close enough, but June decides not to take the chance to find out. Hits the white test anyway, doesn't matter, and Smallman leaves right afterwards. So the cooldown has expired, and there is about a minute left, and we're still waiting for someone to do something suspicious. Seek might be doing it right now. Smallman might as well. They're headed somewhere. We're trying to make them go somewhere. Smallman and Seek are both at statues now. This is what you wanted. If a shot doesn't come off here, though, it's probably not going to.
The statues himself. The time ad will make sure that neither of those players were at a window if the shot was planned to come off, but Smallman's not dying for it.
No, not at all. I think Kotte maybe not sure who did the Purloin, but convinced at least that they're not in mission win countdown. Maybe that contact just weak enough because, again, Smallman not in with an SDA, and I'm not sure whether or not Seek was either.
Yeah, I feel like Seek could be considered seeking for a fingerprint that doesn't exist. Smallman just doesn't have a contact credit like us and Seek, and we don't even have a highlight. We're definitely third fiddle if we can get a bit more credit to these two particular AI.
I mean, I think your best bet here is Smallman joins with a double agent, and you contact, and you hope they get shot, but you're running out of time to make even that happen. And we are going to join with Seek here. We're going to join with a real double agent, and maybe we can frame Seek and get the
Banana
contact for
bread.
ourselves. It is a green. Seek's not talking. We split afterwards. We're actually trying to finish here. I don't think we're looking for a civ shot at all, and that is just too suspicious. Kadi takes the safety off, but thinks better of it, and we're going to swap instead. It's going to be a green swap pending. Kadi waits a few seconds and then takes the shot afterwards. That was a bit of a roller coaster ride, but they got it in the end.
Yeah, I think the split, we saw it actually in our first set too. The split from the double agent and the contact has just resulted in a shot with only 2 suspects, and they were really just about to uh, bring Seek down to neutral light just before we did that banana bread, and then doing the split. It just adds up a bit too much in Kadi's head. I think we were doing well to not be highly suspicious. If we'd had a bit more fortune from our AI, they may well have gotten shot. But the purloin just being narrowed down so well has given the sniper the win.
Wow, 2-0 Kadi. It was a close one potentially, and as you mentioned, I think we were the third most suspicious suspect there, but we were the ones actually finishing. We didn't get a whole lot of help from the AI, except for those statue visits. That was the real moment of truth, and nothing happened. So holding the shot works for Kadi in more ways than one. And June now playing as Orange Sorry on Terrace, I believe, in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Uh, Excuse me? Technical issue, guys. I'm showing it as Irish. I think track has the wrong game.
All right, let me get back in there. Sorry about that. Might have skipped over a replay there. Yep, my mistake. Let's start over. 3, 2, 1, playing it. Might have hit Control N, Control N. Might have sticky keys maybe. I'm gonna blame it on sticky keys.
Sticky keys, when you're trying to safety off on your opponent too many times, and it's like, did you mean to press
Yep.
shift 17 times? And you're like,
I was thinking
No,
like
I'm-
literally, like there's actual syrup in it or something. I don't know. I should probably take better care of my equipment. Kadi, by the way, 46% on the flirt. That's a weird number, but it's right away and you'll take it. And June, by the way, going with bar highlights at least to start.
yeah. Yeah, I was concerned there with the highlight, but it's just the bar highlight. And interestingly enough, we're back on this 3 of 7 terrace. The mission that we're adding is usually going to be swap, and you're not going to see very many swaps, but it does add particularly something at the very beginning of the game that the sniper has to do. They now have to additionally add in their statue memorization. We don't usually expect to see it as a mission done unless this spy is very desperate or going for a very hard rush.
Yeah, I suppose sometimes it's one of those things where if you do a green swap late in the game or something like that, even a rushed white potentially, if the ambassador's vulnerable, if the guest list is being taken, something like that, you might divide their attention. But it's one of those things where the party really has to line up for
Banana
it to be
bread.
of any value. Agreed. That's a green contact, by the way. We're only going to give up 1 low light. It is going to be Orange Sorry, who we know is going to be the spy in the next game, thanks to me and my little mistake. Flirt is mostly done though, over 80% now, thanks to that green test.
Yeah, we're highlighting for real, I think, because we know that the purloin just simply hasn't happened and nobody's been to bar quite a long time. Our third mission's really the question. Bug is the obvious one. With nobody going to bar, purloin is not really on the to-do list. But we have 5 options with 3 of 7. I guess 4 options because Flirt's not one of them.
Yeah, I'm always very impressed when a sniper can do that, can switch their highlights from one thing to another in the middle of a game. It's a little easier on Terrace than most. It's not the most difficult example of what I'm talking about, but it is a good example of a sniper being flexible and responding to what the game is giving them and not forcing their standard preferred kind of highlight strategies onto a game where it doesn't really fit. And in this case, we know it's the right choice.
Everything's becoming quite prohibitive. We're not going to be doing fingerprints. Nobody's been to bar in a good 2 minutes. We're not going to be finishing in specs. Our options, if we're going to be completing missions, are going to be bug or swap or maybe frame rocker.
It doesn't matter. It's just Kane. It's just, I think someone's got to be finishing. I'm going to go back and look over this game real quick, and I'm not really seeing... No, there is a bug path. Look at this. Kane at 1 minute 23 does walk right by the ambassador, and though the highlight did not reflect it, I think June was crediting that bug.
Yeah, interestingly, not shooting for the bug, if that's what they believed in, and shooting for presumed flirt, which is just a lot of patience there from our sniper. I think they'll be healthy for their games the rest of this set, the rest of this tournament. But you can't be shooting for bugs that don't exist. You will end up shooting a lot of players that aren't necessarily spies.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. This is a big early lead here for Kotte, up 3-0 now. Got a little bit of an assist there. That one kind of handed to them. Chance to go up 4 on Terrace here in 3, 2, 1, playing it. And I see
We
the good man, Dr. Grosh, found that bug replay there, and you could see, yeah, it definitely looks suspicious. I think our previous snipers definitely would have shot for it.
Ambassador wants to be bugged. We want the bug to happen, but it's so close to where the ambassador started that we just can't like bug expecting the ambassador to move, especially without them leaving a conversation where you can understand their timing a little bit. And we just have a quiet start, no flirt either.
Yeah, not a whole lot happening here, and you can kind of get away with that on Terrace. Terrace a bit more of a mind game, as we saw earlier, and we cannot resist, though, our seduction target walking right up to the window right next to us, and we still don't get it. That is an unbelievably short stay after the watch check from our seduction target, and somehow the seduce does not take. That was a very high percentage flirt attempt that somehow failed.
We are gonna go get our flirt. Really, because of the watch check, it resets the timer. The quickest I've ever seen is like 4 or 5 seconds, and it's from Smallman, who also does a very quick watch check. But that was very low on the potential. I think we get that 98, 99% of the time.
Yeah, it was an aggressive little move, but it seemed like you're at least going to get the flirt for it. Instead, we don't. Instead, we end up across from our seduction target. You'd think that eye contact would be better for flirting, but apparently in this case, in Spy Party, it's worse. It's only 25%, and that's with a green.
Banana bread.
And one thing that I think actually has ruined us is also that we were Orange Sorry. She is just very slow. If we were framed quicker, just basically any other character other than Pearls, we would have got there. But it does give us winning chances here in the future. We could go for some very ridiculous bugs and get away with them if we can also get a third mission to pair with a bug.
We are in a place where the ambassador can walk behind you and you can get a reverse drive-by bug, but usually that's better if there are people flanking you in this conversation. When you're all alone like this, it becomes much, much harder to get away with. And now we've lost the occlusion of our seduction target as well, so I don't think we're even in a particularly good bugging spot, even as the ambassador comes by us. No,
Banana
they turn
bread.
left instead, but I don't think we had enough people around us for it to work. That is a fake contact after the real, and this one, like the other one, is green. And there are some more lowlights. That is now 5 lowlights on Terrace, and that is just too many.
Yeah, it makes the idea of doing a bug, be it standing or walking, despite Orange Sorry having a very good bug in both cases, pretty hard to get away with, and I don't really think we have too many options. There just aren't characters doing anything else that's going to get them shot, and we don't actually have a single highlight in the map.
Yeah, no highlights and all those lowlights, and we still need another option
Banana
here.
bread.
I think we were trying to bug. That could not have been an intentional fake.
Yeah, I think we had to also use it to take a bug immediately, but we didn't. We're gonna get on the way out, and we're too slow.
It doesn't take, and that would have worked because Kotte has not shot. If we get that again, a frame earlier, right? That's the story of the game here. On the flirt and on the bug, we were absolutely going to get away with that. Instead, we're just going to swap, as you mentioned, and there's just no way. A matter of frames on that bug would have scored them the much-needed spy win.
Yeah, I think the play here, and you have to be so heads up to do it, is after doing that fake banana bread, go, I guess this is now a fake banana bread covering bug. But instead takes it with a super late timing, and it would have been a really good timing if it was frames earlier, because it feels really like it wouldn't necessarily land. In this case, it just didn't land.
It sure looked like it was gonna, though. I was genuinely surprised, which makes me think, if I'm not totally off my rocker, that probably very, very close to taking. But close is not good enough, and Kotte is absolutely running away with this 4-0. Now playing as Salmon on Ballroom in 3, 2, 1, playing it. Gotta stop the bleeding if you're June. You need a win here, if not 2, coming out of Ballroom.
I heard a lot of hate for Salmon, just whenever we like make lists of the characters' strengths, and a lot of them are very similar. Salmon danger here ends up being fairly low, but to me they are like the most, I think inconspicuous is the word I should be using. I find that Salmon danger gets a ton of mission wins against me, just because they kind of blend into the party incredibly well.
Only in Spy Party could a 6'3" man in a salmon-colored blazer be described as inconspicuous. But I know what you mean. I was once talking to a fellow Diamond player back in the day, and I observed to them, I said, you pick salmon a lot. And they said, really? I don't even particularly like salmon. And eventually, after talking, we realized it was because they thought of salmon as the most neutral player, and so they picked them a disproportionate amount of the time. So you have some company there, at least, in that sentiment.
Boots is my character for that. Whenever I'm like, I should pick someone I don't pick, I pick Boots, and I end up picking
You
Boots
end up
for a
picking Boots
lot.
a lot, yeah. You know what? You and me
We
both. I can say that now that I don't really play as much anymore. Boots was one of my underrated favorite spy picks, absolutely. There's a fingerprint for Kotte, by the way.
Oh, I still don't like her. Rocker's the other one comes to mind. Rocker is actually one of the few characters who has done something at this party. Now Kane with the middle statues too. Our fingerprint puts us middle of the list of active members, and we only have 2 half missions. We shouldn't have too much suspicion either way.
No, we shouldn't, and we might have gotten away with that. Unfortunately, that flirt was at 48% early on. That could absolutely come back to bite us if we don't make some more progress soon, because we cannot two-flirt now. We can become agonizingly close, of course, and we are going to have to be agonizingly close, but you might as well space it out at this point. If that fingerprint was free, though, we have a lot of ways to finish here as long as we start making progress sooner rather than later. I think we're being a little too slow on this flirt. I would have rushed that a little bit. That is a green. It's going to get to 95%. We've been offered this drink for a few seconds, and June has come over and noticed the situation, but we do take it. That is going to stop us from doing some of the things we might have to do here with just a little over a minute left.
Yeah, I think that was good laser play from June, making sure that you don't really want to deal with the purloin. Simply just putting the laser in the area makes Kotte actually take a drink, which, given their amount of progress, has really prevented them from finishing. They're not even taking this actually very juicy bug. And as long as June can do what they haven't done in the last 2 games and just hold their shot, they're in a really good spot. They prevented the spy from doing things.
This bug is so tempting. I love these back-to-back bugs. Speaking of juicy, though, there's a fingerprint on the center statue right behind us, and we can finish 2 missions at once and then contact for the win, except, yep, okay, Queen does not take our spot, and we are just going a little too slow here, though. I don't think we have time now. We're going to have to time ad before we do all that. We have to time ad now if we want to have a chance. I don't see how we can finish otherwise.
We're in track. Swap is also a mission. You could do 3 missions there at the middle statue.
You could do 3, that's true. We're going to white contact here in this conversation
Banana
by
bread.
our lonesome almost. The ambassador joins right afterwards, but that doesn't help any. This is either going to induce a civ shot. No, it's going to induce a highlight onto the spy, and there's only 15 seconds left. I think we had to time ad before, and now we're going to try to rush a purloin instead, and I guess we're going to bug on the way out. It's the only way we can get there, but this is a very aggressive way. It's a bug after a green purloin. It is super visible, and June is all over it. I think we had some much more subtle ways to complete there.
I mean, the idea that we had in mind, the fingerprint middle statues, and potentially swap isn't subtle in itself. I think the unfortunate thing here for Kotte, and they're never going to really know this, is their SDA was outside of conversation. That banana bread was us and us only being credited.
Yep.
And in the belief that it could be a finish and we simply just hadn't shown any mission progress, we were watched like a hawk at the end of that game. Just nothing that we were going to do was ever going to work because of the banana bread.
Yeah, I don't know if the other options we were talking about were going to work, but I think they had a better chance. And as you say, a salmon being watched by a hawk, that is a much needed win there for June. That gets them on the board in the match's 5th game. I said they needed maybe 2 wins here in Ballroom, and they are halfway there, but it was the easier half. Here comes the harder bit. We're playing as Red Dress now. 3, 2, 1, playing it. This is where you really have to dig deep and find a win.
Pulling a messy, and Bug is eating our input.
Yep.
Action
It's going to be a green purloin instead, though. We missed the bug and green purloin right afterwards, and then a 45% on the flirt right after that, and we get a reject potentially from a cast member, and Toby's going to leave, and it is still early in the game. We're going to offer to, I think, one of the twins now. They are going to take, it's going to be Bling Twin, and I think we might have gotten away with this. The list is gone, and the sniper has seen it. Have they narrowed this down? We have just left the scene of the original crime. We might have gotten away with this. Are we going to pick up a lowlight for it is the big question. Lowlights are coming out. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're flying out of Kotte's laser, but we're at statues instead, and that is a real spy move after a green purloin.
We are swapping. It is green. We have now done 2 hardtails. The purloin has come off, but fantastic stuff. The purloin could have been like 2 seconds quicker if we hadn't done that bug, but I think based on the lowlights, actually, we're in a spot, aren't we?
Oh, we are in a bit of a spot here. It was us and the list taker, and that is a much better reaction than I thought Kotte was going to do. And they see the swap. It is just too aggressive. The swap is predicated on the idea that they are way behind, and they were not. We weren't sure from that immediate laser play how on that Kotte was, but they eventually got it all the way down to 2, and the green swap is not going to work in that scenario.
Yeah, just looking at the start of that game. So they requested a drink at 3:28. And then ended up doing a bug 2 seconds later, so they didn't actually get to do the purloin until about 5 or 6 seconds later. And if it hadn't been like that, they could have done it in 2 seconds and done it a lot quicker and potentially not had it caught. Cotty, however, just ready for it, doesn't want to give away the cheese purloin, especially with this small mechanical error.
We mentioned the missed bug and then the green purloin afterwards, but if that, you know what that means? That means by definition the ambassador was just walking by you, which means the sniper was likely to be looking, which means they're way more likely to notice that you were rejecting a drink. I think that might have been the case here, and that's why you probably don't want to do that right after the other. It's going to be Cotty now playing on Modern in 3, 2, 1, planet. We are bling
The
again.
ideas, though, the ideas here from Beef have been fresh. Doing purloin and swap is definitely a way to fluster what is generally, I think, considered a better opponent in Cotty. And you're going to need that, both just the way of how to deal with a better opponent, but also when you're down 4-1, you need to do something. You need to be proactive. You need to make game plans, even if it is just aggressively doing nothing. That's still a game plan. Just do something.
Now, it might be fresh, but when you're talking about beef, fresh means bloody. But that is again the artist formerly known as Beef. They are June now and playing pretty well here, but Cotty just all over them, unfortunately. And that was a win I think they really, really needed. Or I'm going to go right back into saying they probably need both of these, and I'm not going to call it must win until it really is. But we are rapidly approaching that point. Cotty, meanwhile, approaching the briefcase, and the fingerprint is done. We have a drink from the bar as well, and this seems like a pretty good time. I like this. This is an active party. It's a pretty standard-looking briefcase. There's a really good chance early in the game, too, that this could get forgotten.
Yeah, on the topic of fresh things, we also have a fresh print in our hand, and we just haven't taken it until we reach this window.
I love it. I love it.
Fingerprint is done.
I love it. I love that. Just kind of hang on to that print and do it whenever. It's not going anywhere. You're not going to smudge it yourself. Fingerprint done. No flirt, though. And that could definitely be a problem a little later on if we don't start to prioritize it.
Definitely gulped a fingerprintable drink in a competitive match. Okay, here we
do you
go.
think it gets smudged on its way down your throat?
Precisely. This banana bread looks really good if we can get there in time. But the concern here is because we have to move across the whole map of Modern. By the time we get here, the party might change entirely.
Still looks pretty
looking
good.
around, and it still looks fantastic, actually.
We lucked out. It's going to be a white test, and 2 people are going to leave during the talk. A green would have kept wheels and pearls in. Instead, it's going to be 4 possible lowlights, one of them small-minute statues, too. That could have been an excellent BB. Instead, it becomes an okay one.
It's not even an okay one. The banana bread doesn't work because the double agent also left. We applauded the banana bread's quality way too soon, and Disney is just walking away with the book smugly, if I do add.
Doesn't matter. Leopard is mistakenly thought to be dumping a book in the wrong shelf, I assume. That's all it takes, and that is just a free win from Cotty, for Cotty rather, who did not need it.
Yeah, we mentioned this earlier when we were talking about Nessie Opie. AI doing weird things and being outside of the conversation for the banana bread is bad, but sometimes they get credited for a banana bread into a book slam sort of idea, and that's going to be enough for Cotty to get the win here. Not really with too much action of their own. All they did was fingerprint, and they didn't take a highlight for it.
Yeah, that is really rough. You can't be giving games away at this stage in the match, or maybe any, but definitely not now. Instead, now spying for their life, June is playing as Buns in 3, 2, 1, playing it. Now you really do need it.
So I don't think it's a good plan, but you can definitely take a immediate purloin. The delegate makes so much more sense in every spot, but I got away with it once against Falcon Hit, and therefore I've always considered it a play.
That's stuck in your memory. We have bar highlights, but when there's 5 people, it's not that bad, even if it does get narrowed down. We are joining with our seduction target, who is Tex. I'd say he looks like a much older gentleman than us, so the character might be June, but the romance is May, December. We don't have any flirt in yet, though. We're being weirdly respectful of our seduction target here.
You're lucky that rolling eyes doesn't make noise.
I thought I heard like a little squishy sound. Your mic is way too sensitive. 51% of the green flirt. Are we going to use this delegate too, by the way? That's a good question. We've got to do it pretty soon, because if anyone else approaches bar first, it's not going to take.
Yeah, it would need to be literally now, and we could do it with the cover of a banana bread too. The DA is in conversation. The conversations are filling up too.
Doesn't look like we want to.
We've seen already in this set that the players are competent at bringing down these highlights too. Hopefully, that in the case for June, that does
And the end
happen
of
now that
red.
the delegate purloin has expired. We do not want to sit with this highlight as we need to do missions at some point if we're going to be doing mission win countdown.
Yeah, we took the delegate because it was there, but we had no intention of using it. And it looks like we're just going to try a timer flirt over that first green one to see if we can finish this in 2. There's the time. The timer expired right there. Here's the flirt. Nope, 85% again. That awful, awful number.
I don't know why I cursed it at the beginning. I just mention it every time I cast, and then every time it continues to happen, and maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's not the player's fault.
I think, yes. I think you and I exert a tremendous amount of control through space and time over these matches.
Oh yeah, I mean, this isn't actually live too. It's incredibly impressive how much control we have.
It would be if it were live, it'd be way more plausible, of course, because then
Oh, yeah,
we would just
exactly.
be positing the existence of a psychic connection, not time travel. So one less thing we'd have to make up. We are eventually tired of waiting around to get this flirt done. It's not worth another timer flirt. So with about 2 minutes left, we are going to approach statues and get a couple inspects in.
This does leave us for inspect swap as a potential option. We haven't actually seen a swap this set except for the swap that happened in Ballroom. So
Is that
is
a
this a
3
3-cycle?
cycle? I think this is a 3 cycle, and it's not even a center statue. I don't know
Yeah,
if Kotte's going to notice. I mean, you mentioned earlier that Kotte just plays a very straightforward, competent game, and I agree with that. And it does mean that they're not necessarily going to look for that because it's not a very high percentage thing to pay attention to.
yeah, and I think we had 3 very quick animations too. Boots does have like one animation that's just very quick, and I think we might have gotten it like multiple times.
The seduce is done there, and inspect is halfway. And you said inspect swap. I think if you can get the contact in between, you might be able to go for it. Is Wheels going to join that conversation? They do. It is full of lowlights, however. We would be the only glowing person in it, but I don't think we can resist. With about a minute left, we're going to go in here, get a contact, and I think it might be that inspect swap you mentioned.
Yeah, if we're going to be doing inspect swap, you expect it to be at the back statues. I've generally never seen a swap of these front statues work.
And the end of red.
It's a green.
That's helpful. And we get a split there from Salmon in the back with an SDA. Salmon, I think, is the most likely person to be shot here, maybe for a flirt, but we I've run ourselves out of options. If we're not doing inspect swap, it needs to be a bug, basically.
Kotte is staring at Bug as you say that, and Red Dress walked right by the ambassador. Her arm went into the character a little bit, and that's enough for Kotte. Not confident that a bug did not happen, even though we know it couldn't have. That is just enough of a suspicious path from one of their remaining highlights. They had a lot of lowlights, but with 4 highlights there, one of them is bound to do something.
Yeah, I'm interested here. We did have a fake banana bread earlier in the game, but it really does feel like Kotte maybe just feeling a bit looser after the match has gotten to a point where they can't lose.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of lowlights for someone I didn't particularly have down as a heavy lowlighter.
Yeah, certainly. And you're right, probably playing a little looser, but again, it's not an outright win yet, so you don't want to get too loose, especially with something scary and unpredictable like Aquarium on, where you can only game plan so much. But Kotte still needs just one more win to clinch this, up 6-2. Can throw pretty much anything against a wall, still has a lot of margin. They're going to be playing as Teal on Aquarium in 3, 2, 1, playing it. That is a much-needed win for June, and again, a little handed to them there. I think in that previous match, I wonder, did they get shot for that, right? Is this just an experience thing, being confident that a bug hasn't taken place?
One thing to note, in video games, there just isn't enough female coverage. Like, just most games, you're going to get like 5 guys and 1 girl character to choose from sort of idea. Just the ladies have been picked 80-90% of the time in these games.
I like
it. They're just a lot more subtle, and I think just being a little bit shorter, a lot of them have very good bugs. We do see a bit of general, we do see a bit of smallman, but it's just interesting that it's an incredibly female-heavy game.
I mean, the more natural occlusion, they're generally slenderer, the models are, and you say you see a bit of smallmen. My friend, that's all you ever see of smallmen, even if you're looking right at them in broad daylight.
Precisely. We have a good banana bread, but we're in the wrong conversation for it. And I suspect that we'll want to move over. The ambassador double walking.
Oh boy.
We did take that, and it feels like we could be credited for it anyways, especially with where the shark was.
You read my mind. June was absolutely watching it, and there's a really good chance that if we just try to finish inspects now at any point, we might get shot. We are probably going to be credited for that. It really looked like we were trying to run into the ambassador behind the shark.
Wow.
Why? Well, I eat my words immediately. Unless there's some weird low-light strategy going on, June might have decided, no, there definitely was not a bug attempt, and I think any spy would have.
Yeah,
Brought back
there's
up.
second thoughts and now third thoughts about this. Cuddy's definitely on the mind, but it doesn't mean that they're suspicious.
You know, I heard tell from a great player once that if you are changing the lights on someone back and forth over and over again, more often than not, at least disproportionately, it is the spy.
If it wasn't me, I agree with the idea because it sounds like something I would say too. It's just something that, especially if you get more behavioral, you end up just going and flickering the lights on. Usually it is the spy. You just have to wait 2 minutes for them to do a stupid bug.
Well, in this case, all they did was a fingerprint off that drink, and we have partial progress across 3 Softail missions with about 100 seconds left on the clock, and here we go. This could
Isn't
be our first mission. It's a
legal.
difficult. It's a difficult. And we hit it, though, so it is illegal, as you say, but who's going to be paying attention to something like that? Who's even going to necessarily be watching and assuming there's a fingerprint on there? We're behind the shark with the capacitor again, and again we're not bugging. We do have a drink in our left hand, but does the sniper even know that? Do they care? I don't know, but with that difficult, the game opens up here.
I think Kotte might be like fairly confident about their position, but from our perspective, I think Beef has a really good chance of pulling off this victory, be it because Kotte has to do inspect, or just like the third or fourth potential bug, but actually bugging.
Actually bugging this time. We do hit a green, by the way, across from the conversation that only gets us to 98. That could be a big deal very soon.
Yeah, with only a minute left on the clock, and we only get one more middle shark, Kotte's options are going to be limited, and seduction target going to bookcase is not helpful. We have no intention of trying to pair that with a microfilm just because a book in our hand will doom us.
I can't believe we didn't decide to contact there. It seems like it was definitely going to happen. It wasn't a particularly bad contact. There must be one person out of conversation that we're just not willing to give up. But we don't have the time anyway, so we have to do it. We're going back to bar here. You got to imagine it's going to be something like contact delegate. But I think, again, we're just doing these things too late in the game.
June here has the opportunity to shoot somebody here on the banana bread or the purloin.
Wants it to be small. Wants it to be Smallman so bad, and that's who it's gonna be. That was the point there. We wanted to keep Smallman in, I think, and we wanted to frame Smallman, but it's happening so late in the game that if you don't get to mission win countdown, it's not even gonna matter. They're gonna wait for it.
Yeah, we don't actually have to get the inspect here too, because we expect the purloin to go off. We actually have the ability to do fifth mission or sixth mission if we want it.
And it's Smallman in the shoes as the shark comes by.
Yeah, I think the shark coming by is definitely also helpful for Kotte. We had the ability to do 6 missions there, which is so interesting to me. Ambassador's near. We could have done 7. Ambassador's not too far by.
I mean, look, I don't know how much of it was planned, but the fact that we kept Smallman alive without the BB, we squished ourselves into that conversation to make sure we were delegating to them. And then the shark was coming by right afterwards, which makes it look like a spy trying to hide behind the shark and just not timing it perfectly. However much that was intentional, it worked absolutely beautifully, and that is going to be an official win for Kotte now. We are going to finish this out just for tiebreaker purposes, but that's going to go down as a win regardless. Going to be June now playing as the queen on Aquarium in 3, 2, 1, playing it. That is unfortunate. A lot of opportunities there for June to stay in this match, but a few easy wins for Kotte amidst what was otherwise fine play.
Back to the bar. We saw this just resulting in a highlight and a lot of wasted time in the modern game, but I mean, definitely options. Just when you know that your opponent does these bar highlights, it seems like fairly unadvisable, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're hoping to really thread the needle, right, and hit it right around the cutoff or something, and that's tough. If you do know that, of course, if you do know that they do them.
We should, given that we have seen it on Redwoods, we've seen it on Modern. Even if you didn't necessarily do the research before the match, and you're not necessarily expected to, you should at least be watching the replays and learning these lessons. We got 34 in pocket. We do have the delegate, which we are doing a banana bread to potentially cover, and it's going to be Smallman, just the run back here, if you will.
There's been a lot of runbacks today. I joked about it in the previous game with the whole chess grandmaster thing, and it's happening here.
Ooh,
with
behind
Spy Party
Shark?
players as well. Behind Shark too, but I don't know if that's better or worse, to be honest, given that it's a delegate early in the game.
Yeah, that is incredibly behind Shark, and I'm interested to see how it comes out. It might be a bit of time before we actually see the list is gone. Definitely visible now, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's seen.
Here come the lowlights. There are the bar highlights at work. That's a bug. We time it wrong behind the shark. It's the bug and go right back to your spot, and we are shot again in the shoes.
Yeah, just the sniper's so ready for it. The shark just wasn't low enough. We weren't using the fin, for example. But Kotte, very much ready for June's play, and I love the idea though. You got to be taking those when you have the opportunity.
I mean, it's still Finn in a certain sense, in the French sense at least. We're going to move on to Highrise now. It's going to be 3-5. It's going to be the not the same mission setup we saw before. I'm not even going to give you a chance to react to that one. We're going to put on Fingerprint instead of Purloin, though, and it is going to be Buns in 3, 2, 1, playing it. I don't know if they prefer Fingerprint or if this
Purloin,
is...
do
Yeah,
bug, do
let's do it.
something,
Let's do
save
it.
me.
I mean, you can
Yeah,
get the
okay.
YOLO games here at the end when tiebreakers are the only thing at stake, right? And I wonder if the mission setup has something to do with that.
Yeah, I think Kotte has played a really good game against a slightly lesser opponent. Just in the first few games, they were playing very patient, seeing if June would take the shots there on the civilians, and they did. And they're not taking these like risky plays. They're not taking the early bugs that aren't necessarily necessary. Like we saw in the Nessie game, where like the early Purloin was the reason they were able to get a win. If you consider your opponent to just be slightly worse than you, you don't necessarily need to be playing particularly risky.
Yeah, no, certainly not. If you're a favorite, and I think at least in those scenarios, what you'll often do is, like you said, you'll test your opponent early, and if they pass, maybe you can mix it up. But if they don't, if the shooting civ's early on, why change?
I think we actually did see testing in the same sense with the Nessie OP game where they were doing the bugs.
Yeah,
Uh, it was just a different test. They're checking something else. We could Purloin here. No, we cannot. It's not even on. We can take an innocent drink, which feels very passive. But it's Highrise 3 or 5. You do a lot of passive things just to feel a bit more A-like because there's so few characters on the map.
the deuce is almost done. It's tantalizingly close, as a matter of fact. The inspects are halfway done, too. We do get a fingerprint off that drink instead, so
Oh,
next best
really?
thing to the Purloin.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
I was mistaken. I would be losing this game, but we'll see what June will do with the probably prospective banana bread coming here shortly. Seduction target very kindly has followed us too after we got the flirtation expired. And we're taking the flirt before any banana bread.
I mean, in your defense, if you were sniping rather than casting, you'd probably be thinking about other things. So I think you might have caught it.
Oh, I would have already have like high-lit and low-lit small one 3 times. I probably already
Banana
low-lit the
bread.
spy.
There we go. There's the contact, which means either this fingerprint or those 2 inspects are going to go to waste.
Yeah, the boon here is like if we do fingerprint and we don't go back to statues or vice versa, they might be waiting for the other mission to happen.
Right.
The problem is we're just very much at the top of the suspicion list. It's just, and Kotte won't know, right? They won't know which is going to be more suspicious necessarily, the statue or the fingerprint.
It's an interesting choice for sure. You are more confident that the inspect has been noticed, though. So that's the thing, right? If you think they notice both, then maybe you want to go to statues because it's more obvious, and they're waiting for a second fingerprint that never comes. But I think if you think there's any chance you got away with that fingerprint, that's probably the way you want to go if given a decent opportunity. We have not been given a decent opportunity yet, though, and there are only 40 seconds left. You are relying on that ambassador to help you avoid that statue trip.
It's the blue bookcase, and Kotte is scoping it out, and we'll go for it. This is going to be our second fingerprint if June is kind enough to let us get away with it. It's going to be about 10, 12 seconds.
Immediately, all over.
Yeah, we've seen some quick shots. We saw it on Redwoods too, not waiting for a countdown or the ability for particular shenanigans, dancing, those sort of things. Just very much ready to take the shots when they have been shooting Kotte. And unfortunately, it's just been not enough in this game. Kotte still does have the win in pocket.
I mean, we have our answer. Absolutely notice the print on the drink, and a solid little game from Kotte, and an even better game from June. And well, we're going to try to go out strong here, playing as General on Highrise, and we're back to the quote-unquote standard setup. Fingerprint off this time, and why not? It didn't work last time. Purloin on instead. Last game of the match either way in 3, 2, 1. Playing it. Kotte guaranteed at least an 8-4 victory, same as our previous opponents. Oh, well, look at that. Hang on, hang on, hang on. Bug attempt in the early going that does not take again.
Personally, my opinion is that Fingerprint and Purloin are pretty similar. And when I was playing, it was always, if I felt like I could hit my green tests, I would put Purloin on. And if I felt like I was really not hitting very many green tests, then Fingerprint makes more sense. Obviously, you do often want to be hitting green fingerprints anyways. But I think it's not necessarily one way or another for every player. And we have an inspect, and we'll have a flirt here. 51%, perfect.
Yeah, and it is statue highlights coming out here, and that's us and Bling Twin so far. Still pretty early in the game, too, so we've got a lot of options. I think we're probably going to timer flirt here.
Yeah, with Highrise 3 or 5, you always feel like you have a lot of time, and you look up the clock and it's only a minute left. I wouldn't be too casual. We saw things like Kotte taking a drink and then having to discard it to be able to get the fingerprint. Those sort of things do sometimes slow you down, and 5-10 seconds will matter at the end of this game.
Yeah, it likely will. The flirt cooldown timer is going to be any second now, and we're going to try to finish that flirt in 2, and that opens up a bunch of options if we want to quote-unquote rush on a Softail variant, which is a thing you can do when you 2 flirt, and it's the kind of thing you might do if you're just going to try stuff at the end of a match like this where you're only playing for tiebreakers anyway. There's the cooldown. Are we going to flirt? We are, and oh no. You know what number it is.
85, it's our favorite. And when I say our favorite, it's not our favorite's 100, but the thing that we haven't seen in either this set or the last set is a standing bug. And I think if we can get a banana bread covering a bug, that might be our best chance. It's not really General's like forte. We really like General's walking bug is the reason that General gets picked a lot. It's gonna be a side inspect here instead. Interesting. It will
Yeah.
give us the full inspects.
Standing bugs are going the way of the dodo, my friend, for better or worse.
I disagree. They work almost every dang time.
Oh, I like them. I'm not saying they should go away. I'm just saying they are falling out of favor. I actually checked when I was playing. I was basically the only player in the top 4 or 5 divisions that had anywhere near the rate I did at standing bugs. I had something like 20 or 40%, and everyone else was 10 or lower. I have generally been a big proponent of them. They're timing based and therefore a little scarier, but I think they are still wildly underused. But right or wrong, they are not done as often as they used to be.
I'm surprised I wasn't there with you because I do a lot of standing bugs, especially with banana bread cover. Banana bread could cover purloin here, but we have the flirt in pocket. It's gonna result in the shot anyways. Good stuff there from June, bringing it back here in a set where it's still important, right? Tiebreakers. I think June is actually the sort of player who is very likely to be in that like third spot position, second spot position, where the tiebreakers either get them through or get them an easier matchup as they head off into the bracket.